Hey everybody, welcome to Ask the Anabolic Doc, starring Dr. Thomas O'Connor. With was it the left arm, the right arm of doom? It's one of those arms, both of them. Brought to you by his websites, metabolicdoc.com and anabolicdoc.com, both of which you can pick up your copy of his book, America on Steroids, A Time to Heal, also available on Amazon right now. As you know, Amazon is taking over the world. So,
yes.
How are you?
True.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ron. Another week. Just so happy. So much stuff going on. Interviewed yesterday by a media fitness outlet in Holland.
Wow. Dutch.
That was fun. Yeah.
The Netherlands.
Yeah, the Netherlands. And his English they're so amazing how well they speak. It's incredible to me.
Yeah, my daughter dated a guy from Amsterdam for a couple years, and his English was pretty impeccable. He just couldn't I think the V or something. Some things they can't say. Yeah, but
isn't it amazing? We're like Americans, and we can't even speak English.
I just did an interview with a prep coach named Patrick Tuar who speaks 5 languages fluently. Boy,
wow.
Did I feel like a dope.
I'm telling you, Ron.
Okay, so let's get right to it. I wanted to do something on this episode, which is have you comment on some of the science bites that appear in Muscular Development. In the last issue, in the May issue, there's a section called Drugs, Cutting Edge Research. It has all kinds of research reports and study summaries and things like that. I found a couple that I really wanted to get your take on. Yep. So this was on page 34 of the May issue of MD, and the headline is Heart Attack and Stroke Risks Greater from Testosterone Injections than from Patches and Gels. So the little summary here was a study led by J. Bradley Layton from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill found that testosterone injections resulted in a greater incidence of heart attack, stroke, chest pains, hospitalization, and death than patches and gels. And this appeared online in the Journal of American Medical Association Internal Medicine.
Yep.
Jim.
Yep.
So that is really strange to me. Why would injections, or is this even true? Is this study?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's not true. Absolutely not true.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be more concise and give people what they want these days.
Okay.
No way. And if you look for the data, here we go. It's retrospective, which is, again, I'm not saying it's useless, but it's certainly not a gold standard. And you ready for this?
Sure.
The data, Ron, is based on insurance claims.
Oh, okay.
So this is not putting the insurance guys down. What that means is they're doing a data bank review for who filled prescriptions for testosterone cypionate versus androgel, Testim, okay?
Yeah.
Now there's no follow-ups. This is the stuff that I want to bring to the world. This is completely shoddy, studied, and it's not even medicine to me.
Wow.
So again, and in my practice, when you look at that, and I'm going to go into something here in a minute.
Yeah.
When you properly give men androgens, testosterone, and you of course address the side effects, which is number 1, you're going to be on it forever potentially.
Yep.
Number 2, the heart. And when you study and you watch and manage men, you don't see I've never ever had one patient have a heart attack in over 10 years practicing for a man on testosterone. Not one.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I guess because I'm aggressive and I manage the blood pressure, I manage their lipids. If they have an LV enlarged, I make sure I work with other physicians on it. Again, so very aggressive management, but this is completely erroneous. It's just, if you look retrospective, and in the last 6 months, there was something in here that in 6 months, they weren't even filling some of these prescriptions. So the fact that it's retrospective and it's based on insurance claims, Ron.
Yeah.
It's just there's no way you're going to understand causation or what happened. So this is when you start getting in trouble with they cross-reference. Did this man pick up this medicine and then was he in the hospital having a heart attack within X amount of time?
Because I just want to get to the because the pharmacology here. Why would there be any difference?
Wow.
Why would there be any difference in the cardiac risks of injections versus
Let's go.
Pellets or gels or anything like that.
Let's go.
Right?
So, been dealing with this for years, and it's all theoretical. But you ready for the theory? Let's go for the theory. Testosterone esters, definitely, when you look for, there's a peak and trough, right? So when you inject it, it's going to go up, and then it will go up and down. And during that period, compared to gels or a pellet, the way the kinetic, the way it goes up and down is definitely going to be different.
Okay.
So not to mention, that's why doctors that use smaller injections more frequently are on.
Right.
Because you take down this peak and trough, so it's more regular, it's undulating.
Yeah.
So doctors that unfortunately give, say for an example, testosterone cypionate or enanthate, and they give 1 or 2 cc's every 2 weeks to a month. I mean, that's not that. Now again, Ron, that is not optimal, but there's no study to say that if you do that, what's going to happen? You're 2 or 3 days later, after a cc or 2 of cypionate, you're gonna, if you went to the lab, your testosterone is going to be off the chart. Yeah. And if you went to the lab before the injection, 2 weeks or a month later, it's going to be super low.
Right. But the damage that occurs from testosterone use to the heart is something that takes months and years, I would think, to accumulate.
Perfect.
It's not going to, one shot is not going to result in,
So first of all, if we're talking about testosterone to the coronary artery, well, I did my review where I brought in the data expert who's a cardiologist and talked about testosterone replacement for those 2 studies in 2013, 2014. There were not good evidence-based studies either, and so the conclusions really are mirrored. They're really marred. They're really not conclusions you can really make judgment from. And he said that, not me. Right. And he's an expert lipidologist and a cardiologist. But in the end of the day, when you look for testosterone on the heart, it actually vasodilated the coronary artery.
Okay.
But these are just in vivo, if you will, studies that are disconnected from the clinical picture of, if you give a man testosterone, what does it do? Well, if you give it like these big bolus injections, that's not going to be good. And then what happens? So traditional doctors feel that injections, esters, are bad for men and may hurt the heart because of the fact that you are overloading it because you give these big injections compared to a gel. But there's no data. There's no data to support it. But in theory, so then what goes next? Huge estrogen conversions. Okay. Well, I thought estrogen is supposedly good for the heart. Maybe too much. We don't know. So next level, the fact that, which probably it may be true, and it appears that in some data, injections of testosterone leads to polycythemia.
The blood cysts in the liver.
Yes, the increase in red blood cell. But again, Ron, this is all I do. I'm going to do a great interview on a hematologist I talked to last week, because I talked to this man. He's a University of Connecticut board certified hematologist, and I sent a patient to him that I'm having such a problem controlling his hematocrit, and I don't want to just phlebotomize him to make him anemic. So it was a great discussion, and this man, who's an expert hematologist, he said, Tom, we just don't understand the relationship between androgens, red blood cells, and outcomes. He understands how it happens, but is it dangerous? So again, and you can't just say that if you have secondary polycythemia, that itself, he told me, is not a cardiac risk. Wow. So that's why everyone's taking the aspirin. I mean, that's not a hypercoagulable state. So Ron, we're talking about heart disease. We're talking about hypercoagulable states where you're coagulating and you're causing a clot, right? You're talking about the clot. So you want this. You don't want it to go to that. So, and indeed, calcium scores, and then of course you could look at the left ventricle. So does testosterone somehow lead to, not to mention injectable cardiac disease? Well, here's another thing. The VA study that the federal government looked at in 2013, and then the subsequent study in 2014, where the feds actually end up putting a risk on testosterone products for heart attack, stroke, and death. You ready for this? Yeah. That data was all gels. I will close my case on that.
That was a government study, you just said?
There was the VA study, then there was a PL. Okay, so when you look for I'm going to repost a video I did a few weeks ago. Testosterone replacement is not guilty for causing heart disease, is the title.
Yeah.
And I interviewed a real cardiologist who's a really good guy in the community here in Hartford, Connecticut, and who's very conservative cardiologist. He's board certified, and he did his homework. And then I put him on camera and I asked him, "Hey, Doc, tell us about this." And he went through piece by piece with the data. And again, the data is shoddy and the data is inconsistent. And any doctor that understands evidence-based medicine and statistical evaluation will tell you those studies and this study is completely out of whack. And you cannot make a clinical judgment just based on this. But you know what these are called, Ron? What? These are unfortunately sound bites. Okay. These are they see this, doctors see this.
Yeah.
And then they say, because we're still persons, we're humans.
No more injections. I got to get everybody on the gel. Yeah.
But Ron, and all we call it as doctors, we call it treating ourselves. Because when we give a medicine because it's less risk or we don't know the data, we do it because it makes us feel better.
Right.
But it may not be the right therapy for the patient. So in the medical world, and when I was talking to this hematologist last week, he indeed said, Tom, we're phlebotomizing all these guys, really over phlebotomizing them. They actually feel horrible because they're actually anemic. Yeah. We're phlebotomizing. I'll do a video, and all these men are phlebotomizing. And he said, Tom, we're doing that because we're treating ourselves.
Okay.
So
let's go to the next sound bite. A bite. It's same page. This one, the headline says, statins decrease testosterone levels. A Polish study found that statins suppress the formation of steroid hormones, such as testosterone. Compared to men not taking statins, statin users had 20% less total testosterone, free testosterone, and biologically available testosterone. Statins affect cholesterol synthesis, which is important for making testosterone. Statins, do they really decrease, and is this relevant for people that are taking supplemental testosterone?
Ron, perfect. First of all, this actually may be true.
Okay.
This actually has been out there. This is not just one study. There's been other studies. And if you look, what would be a cool study, but it's not really been done yet that I've seen, is you take men on statins and you take men that have hypercholesterolemia, elevated cholesterol, and they're at risk for a heart attack. You put them on statins. There's millions and millions. And then you randomize and double blind them to a sugar pill. And then over the next 90 days to 6 months, you ask them, how's your sex drive? How's your sex life? And then check testosterone levels. Now that would be really cool. My feeling is this, Ron. Statins, I like them actually because it's all we have. Yeah. You ready for this, Ron?
Yeah.
I think statins do, I've seen it, lower androgen levels. But are you ready for this?
Give them more androgens. No?
Ron, you took the words right out of my mouth.
I'm a medical genius.
You're a medical genius. So this is a multifactorial approach. There's a lot of balls up in the air. If it's a man, first of all, on the flip side, every man that I treat on androgen, I put most of them on statins anyway because we're men. We have plaque in the artery. Unless you're going to starve yourself to death and live this plant-based diet and exercise, who's doing all this? I don't do it perfectly. So why, if you have plaque that's there, why wouldn't you? Now the truth is, and I've talked to this for years because men have brought studies like this up to me, and they've said, Doc, I have an idea. I feel great because I'm on testosterone. My sex drive is great. My testosterone is being supplemented by the medicine, so I could take statin. I feel great. The answer is yes.
Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Okay. So this is really only a concern for, people that, I assume they're talking about guys that aren't on any kind of TRT, and they're going to see a little drop in their testosterone, but, go to your doctor and get on some testosterone if you need it, right? I mean.
The truth is this, Ron. The truth is, first off, Ron, this is one study. There are other studies. I have not evaluated this. I would never want to make a claim that statins cause low T because, again, everything I say, everything I say publicly, I want to be vetted by a board certified expert doctor that would say, okay, what Dr. O'Connor is saying is correct. If it's correct that the studies are wrong and you can't make this assumption, or I don't want a guy to come to me and say, Dr. O'Connor said statins cause low T.
Right.
I don't want to hear that, but in my own anecdotal opinion,
Yeah.
I think it's certainly plausible because it mediates through the liver. It's not hurting the liver,
Right.
but it mediates through the liver. And this cholesterol synthesis, which is whoever wrote that is completely right. That's you or Steve.
Yeah. Steve.
So it's true. But it's very, very true. So if you line the moons up and a guy's T is like low normal, and then he goes on a statin, and then you see that men on statins have poor libidos, is it the statin or is it a secondary effect on lowering something like testosterone?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, well, let's move on. I have a bro science question, and I love to come to you with my bro science theories that I've been invested in for years. So this is one thing that the bros have been talking about for many years. Is there such a thing as receptor downgrade, where we basically become immune to testosterone? Have you had patients who need more and more testosterone over time to achieve the same blood levels?
Ron, what a question. Two responses. Steroid users definitely get receptor downregulation. You know that.
Yeah.
Anabolic steroid users that are using multiple agents, stacking steroids, they stack them and they change them because the effect in the gym and the muscle building definitely goes away, doesn't it, Ron?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So that's steroid use for musculoskeletal growth and strength. But as into testosterone land here with me, answer is no. I'm amazed to say, after a decade of taking care of men on testosterone, we were all in the beginning thinking that may be a problem, like opioids.
Right.
And alcohol. You take it, unfortunately your brain says, no, I need your tolerance. It's called tolerance. And then you need more and more of the drug to have the same effect, and you get in trouble, with opioids. And I've seen people I've seen 100-pound women on 400 milligrams a day of oxycodone.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's because their brain builds tolerance, so it's a horrible issue. Now with testosterone, absolutely no. Most men live on 100 milligrams of intramuscular testosterone every 3.5 to 5 to 7 days, and you know what? Happy and horny, no difference. Testosterone levels in the blood stay the same too. But by some people, if you enter another drug, if they're taking new drugs, when you enter other drugs in, you're going to affect the metabolism of the enzymes that are, again, this is all liver, mainly liver physiology and pharmacokinetics. When you start adding, it's very classic when you add these drugs to serotonin-like drugs and antidepressants, you have to understand that this drug may increase the effect of other drugs or decrease. So you either speed up the metabolism of it or you slow it down, and then it builds up and it can be toxic. So these are, central nervous system drugs that we call carbamazepine, seizure drugs. So with testosterone, I'm amazed to say 100% that tolerance is not built. Again, is there a tweaking? Does a man lose a little effect? But across the board, guys stay on the same dose Ron for decades. Good.
Okay. Well, this is you're talking about clinical doses, 100 to 200, maybe 250 at the maximum a week of testosterone. So they're not building up a tolerance or resistance to the effects of it. But let's look at bodybuilders who are using a gram of test a week, and maybe they're throwing 2 grams combined of Tren and Masteron and Primabol, and guys who are using mega doses. In the cases like that, would you expect to see a lot more resistance and a lot?
Well, God, Ron, I mean, every week I'm taking in a couple guys now. Oh my God, Ron, it's just, I sit here and just have popcorn and just almost, and I just kind of Ron.
Yeah.
I hear these. I am dumbfounded at the amount of drugs that people are using, and these are regular guys. These are not pros. I mean, they're just regular guys trying to look like pros, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. So on that level, there's definitely downregulation. But as far as their brain function, I talked to a guy the other day that came in, and I asked him what's his drug of choice, and he's Tren.
Tren's awesome.
And I said, well, tell me about Tren. And I go, do you get Tren dick? He said, Tren dick?
Yeah.
I actually destroyed my life because on Tren I have so much sex. I don't even. And I go, well, how come? Why am I thinking? Some guys tell me, some guys tell me it can be in the beginning it's great, and then they're devastated. And using it with testosterone, using it with I know the mixes like Deca and Test, Tren, all the mixes.
Yeah.
And he goes, he said, I don't know, Doc. I think they're not getting the right stuff on the internet. Then he went into enanthate versus acetate.
Yeah.
And he said acetate is much more powerful and better. And I'm amazed at how these men learn this stuff, Ron.
So he does not feel he had the opposite effect where he never got the ED issues from Tren. Do you think that
never? As a matter of fact, he said it's just you gotta have sex 6 times a day, and it's just annoying.
Who's going to have sex with you 6 times a day?
I don't.
That's what I want to know.
Ron, I mean, you have to understand. Some of the guys that say this stuff and coming to me, I don't think they don't lie, but there may be some, they want to kind of pump up the story a little, no pun intended.
Well, they might have 3 girls chained up in their basement too.
Ron, I mean, it's a scary world. But there's definitely downregulation on steroids, Ron. There's 100% for the effect and the sexual and their libidos and their moods are all over. So you can imagine what's going on in the brain with all those drugs.
Yeah. But I mean, I do believe, and I have no studies or anything to back this up, just a lot of anecdotal evidence from myself and others who have used gear on and off for many, many years that, you don't get the effects anymore. It just doesn't work the same as it used to.
Is that why? But you know what I heard of, Ron? Let's talk about receptors.
Sure.
Years ago, when I was writing for you guys in the beginning, 2012, I think it was, right? 2010. Yeah. I had a whole, there's a period where you get the same kind of questions. I got these receptor questions, and this is where I was like, I better read into this. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. So it turned out they come off they change the drugs, they clean them out, and then men are using histamines, antihistamines. Have you heard about that?
No.
So there was a theory on the internet. So I learned. This is how I learned all my stuff from the streets. So these was more in the powerlifting circles where they're doing cycles and they're going up and then they peak and they're stagnant and they just can't get any more out of the drug. So, but they don't want to come off the drug too long because they have a meat come. They don't want to lose the gain. So there was different drugs, and one of them was that there was a theory, and it's on the internet. I read all about it. Steroid staging and cycling and using Benadryl and antihistamines, like Benadryl, to speed up and to recover downregulated receptors.
Wow!
Absolutely amazing science.
Please make a note of that. Pick up some Benadryl, okay? Helps you sleep better too. Well, this is the all-purpose. Okay, cool.
But you better, this is definitely the disclaimers are the big.
We should keep up a little disclaimer flashing at the bottom of the screen throughout the whole episodes, right?
I'm gonna have someone come up with a sign, a disclaimer. I mean, I don't know, Ron, but you know what guys do? They just change all the drugs around all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Now we got some reader questions, and let's lead off with the all-star of this show, Swaminator. Swaminator, we love you. Doc, thoughts on pre-workout stimulants and other over-the-counter, quote-unquote, legal bodybuilding supplements when it comes specifically to cardiac health? And then he said, Ron, depending on the answer, this could piss off some sponsors. So I understand if you want to leave this one alone. No, we're going to, this is your health, so we're going to talk about it.
This is exempt. Everything else in this channel, all the other ones, we're exempt here. We have this is the child the health channel. Right. So here, this is a great question. My God, pre-workout stimulants. So what's in? I've years ago looked in what's in that stuff, from the caffeine, Ron, to the creatine, to the vasodilator.
We have there's been some wacky shit in these pre-workouts.
Yeah, herbal stuff, the vasodilators. I mean, Jesus, Ron. So here's the deal. Come on, Ron. How many patients have come into me, and these are guys, steroid using guys, and I do the history, and I ask them, so any, you ask, medical, you ask them, so have you hospitalizations, any? Yeah, I've been in the hospital. Well, what are you in the hospital for? Oh, I was in the hospital because, I was taking a supplement, and man, my heart pounding, chest pain, and I couldn't catch my breath. Yeah. And so look, remember my number one guy, the Anabolic Doc? The number one,
patient zero.
That's right, patient zero, yeah. 2003, Hartford, St. Francis emergency room, 3 a.m. A 36-year-old guy pops in, huge guy in atrial fibrillation. Ron, good. Here it is.
It was pre-workout.
He popped in AFib. He's in atrial fibrillation, so his heart is flying. The top part's fibrillating. His ventricle response is pretty high too, about in the hundreds. He's short of breath. He's running on a treadmill, but he's sitting there on the gurney. And he had chest pain too. He was really scared, and he was sweating, and he was really anxious. And what did he do? He supposedly literally took six Red Bulls. So, but again, look, Red Bulls are the same stuff as pre-workout.
Yeah, it's a ton of caffeine.
I love Red Bull.
They're delicious.
I love it. My girlfriend said it tastes like cat piss, but I just love it. So before I mountain bike, I throw that down, and I throw just like a protein bar down, and I'm good to go for 90 minutes. Right. Ron, these drugs are not really drugs. These are supplements. And apart from the pseudoephedrine and the ephedrine and all that jazz, yeah. They're Ron, here's what they are, Swami. They're caffeine-like drugs. As far as like illegally banned ephedrine, I don't know. They're probably slipping it in, but you don't even need that. Beta-alanine, 200 milligrams, if not 400 milligrams of caffeine, other vasodilators, and all the other stuff I call the tree barks that they put in there. I mean, Ron, this stuff is no joke, bro.
No.
So if, depending on, Ron, I know people that are chemically sensitive. I mean, there are people that can't even have a cup of coffee.
Right.
So if you just take just 400 milligrams of caffeine, not to mention 200 or more, I mean, that's going to just, these are adrenergic nervous system, sympathetic nervous system,
yep.
Flight and fight. And yeah, man, these things, I personally think, Ron, I've used them all. I used to love them.
Yeah.
And then when I was training for the bench heavy, I don't know, Ron, I would be nervous, and it seemed like I was weak. I mean, I like the brain charge.
Right.
Because I'm geared up and I'm ready to visualize, benching 500 pounds or more when I did.
But physically, not so great.
But there it is. And you know what? My guys I'm training with, different guys in the gym would be like, Doc, that's garbage. Have a cup of coffee or take some caffeine, like maybe 1 or 2 caffeine pills, Doc. Yeah. But you're going to be so jittery, you're weak.
Yeah.
So I end up, and again, but there's a supplements, and I mean, if you have an underlying cardiovascular electrical arrhythmia, those Ron, these are the people that have died.
Right.
And they're very rare.
Right.
It's very rare. It's unfortunate. It's rare. I'm not giving it a blessing. I'm saying it's very, 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 very rare. Someone has a electrical problem they don't know about, and it's no doctor's fault. It's just 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 10,000, and then all of a sudden they have they have a massive arrest. They don't have a heart attack. They arrest. The electrical system just goes haywire, and they just end up in VTAC and VFib, and they're dead.
Because caffeine by itself, I mean, I've heard cases where teenagers drink 3 or 4 Monster Energy drinks and they die. Caffeine itself, you can overdose and die.
Ron, that's it. Yeah. That's it. There's nothing more to say. And they're addictive because, man, you get charged up. I mean, you look, who doesn't feel sluggish? And it's a little mini high. Yeah. Compared to Coke, but it's really, it's the same brain area, Ron. I mean, it's, cigarettes give people a nicotine high. The guys, I've just recently had a patient of mine quit chewing tobacco after 20 years. He loved doing Copenhagen, and I know why, because he's like, it gives you a nice buzz, doc, and it feels great to throw a lipper in, and after training. And
you carry a little spit bottle around all the time, though. It's disgusting.
Ron, this guy doesn't spit.
What? He swallows that?
At a certain point, Ron, a lot of the guys.
Yeah.
This is true. I didn't know this either. At a certain point, Copenhagen's heavy duty stuff. These guys just put it in. They just suck on it and just swallow it.
Oh, so disgusting.
But to get him to quit, I used caffeine patches. I used everything, nicotine peptide, nicotine patches.
Yeah.
And we used Wellbutrin, medicines that you use for quitting smoking, because it's the same thing. It did work. He got to the point where he's like, Doc, look, I'm losing my teeth. His teeth or his gum is all deteriorated. And but this is, Ron, this is why I love this show, because people, we do all this is what people just do. Your brain gets addicted to training, steroids. People love them because you feel like $1 million, man, when you're on steroids. So it's a slippery slope, Then caffeine's a little bit of a drug, and then now these supplement companies, they're just packing them all in there together.
Right.
I mean, but I've seen people, Ron, like take supplements and they end up in the ER because the flush, the niacin and the beta-alanine.
Right.
I mean, you felt that stuff, I'm sure, right?
I mean, some pre-workouts over the years that I've tried, I don't know what was in them, because God knows they've some of these companies have snuck God knows what drugs. I'm sure they were drugs, because sometimes, I swear, one time I felt like I was tripping balls in the gym. I was like, something is wrong here. I mean, literally, like I was like almost hallucinating, like flashing colors, and it wasn't the best workout either. I'll tell you that. So
what do you do? What do you do? What do you like to? What's your pre-workout?
I do the Gaspari one, Super Pump Max. Super Pump
Old school.
Yeah, I mean they're not that. They don't give me heart palpitations or anything like that. It's just enough of a boost where it picks me up a little bit. I mean, I train in the morning. I have coffee with breakfast, so I don't need a lot of extra caffeine anyway. I mean, I could probably train without any pre-workout if I really had to, but who wants to do that?
But it does fun. I like, the old school. I'm not going to, I see you got the Gaspari shirt on, and obviously his products, are incredible. I mean, and it would be great to see like the old back to the basics, like things that work, not too crazy. Now it seems like we're probably, I think, coming back to that, where some of the pre-workout stuff, it's whatever they could pack in. Have you read the ingredients on those things?
Yeah, well, the FDA comes along every now and then and looks into it, and they'll ban this stuff. Like DMAA was a very popular ingredient in a lot of pre-workouts for, I want to say, about 3-4 years at least. And then all of a sudden, the government looked into it, and they all had to be pulled. That was that.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're,
from heart attack, from cardiac stuff, or what?
I don't know if there was a real basis in terms of a general health risk, or if there's maybe a couple incidents. Probably was something like that, a couple isolated incidents that the FDA took notice of, and that was enough for them to say, you can't put this in your, this is a drug. You can't have this in your over-the-counter dietary supplement, and that was that.
Wow.
Next and last question from Albertos. Similar question, so he posted this right after Swarminator. ECA or clenbuterol use in heart stress, which is safer for the heart, or stay away from both of them to be totally safe? This is a very relevant question for right now, because it's May and the weather's heating up, and I know a ton of people watching this. They're starting to use either ECA, clenbuterol, or both right now to lean out for summer. It's standard practice for the meatheads. So
let me ask you this, Ron. What, from your perspective, is ECA in the supplement world? Like, what is the pure form?
I don't think it's even legal. It's not legally available. It's such a gray area. I looked into it, and you can still find it, but I don't think it's being sold legally. I think it's I don't know where it's coming from, to be honest with you. But because I looked into it, because I have people asking me about fat burners, I said nothing really works better than ECA, the old school ECA stack from my experience. And you can always still find like ephedrine in the form of Broncaid or certain over-the-counter asthma medication. So that's been a go. As soon as ephedrine got banned, that's immediately bodybuilders just said, okay, well, we'll just buy Broncaid or whatever.
And Primatene. I don't want to give the C.
Yeah. So,
the Primatene pill has pseudoephedrine and mucin, D, Sudafed.
Yeah.
So anyway, so here's the deal on that. So I'm not ECA, I'm not fully familiar with that, but I of course know what it is, but I think it's along the same lines as clenbuterol is a powdered pill form oral medicine for asthma.
Right.
And here's what it is, Ron. It's called a beta adrenergic agonist.
Yep.
So when you take puffer, if you have asthma and you breathe in, and you breathe it directly into your lungs, it's called albuterol.
Okay.
This is a racemic mix, which is liquefied, and you inhale it in as a mist, and it directly goes into the bronchus, and it vasodilates the bronchus, and it could save your life, obviously, right then and there, acutely, if you are having an asthma attack. And then you get onto the paramedics with epinephrine and so on and so forth. So in the hospital with us. So let's look at what it is. So this is a pill form now when you take albuterol, anyone who uses this, have you ever tried albuterol?
I've never done no. I mean, I've taken clenbuterol. I've never used the actual inhaler.
So you've talked to anyone who has asthma, who needs that medication, life-saving medications. They're going to tell you that when they take it a little too much, heart rate goes up. And they feel jittery. So let's talk about clenbuterol.
Yeah.
So clenbuterol is a very potent form of this, essentially, systemically. You take it as a pill. And then so it's a sympathetic agonist to your sympathetic nervous system. So and now apart from this, and I know I said this before in other interviews, when I first started my studies, graduate studies, I was on a PhD fellowship at New York Medical College. I was in a lab where we were studying. It was a Duchenne's muscular dystrophy lab. You know those unfortunate children that have muscular dystrophy.
Yeah.
So I was in a lab with scientists, and I liked muscles. So I was like, I'll pick this lab. Let's work in this. So I was his grad student, and I was in there before I went to the cardiac lab a year or two later, and I was first working on muscle physiology, and I was in a lab with a guy, and sure enough, he had pure clenbuterol. And what he was doing was he was looking at different concentrations to see how it would work on skeletal muscle for Duchenne, to protect for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. Now, I'm not sure what happened to that laboratory because I didn't really want to stay there for much longer. I ended up going back to med school and dropping out of the PhD program. Yeah. So and I was hanging out with the Chinese guys. It was really a fun time, And unfortunately, I was running dogs. I was doing live animal research.
Okay.
And it was really disturbing that I was running. I had to take animals, dogs, and run them into the ground, for heart failure. So it was really like, oh, I'm not sure I want to do this.
Right.
So, but I'm going to tell you something funny. I had a little of this stuff, and I was like, so this clenbuterol stuff is because it was back in the 90s. This stuff builds muscle, and so. I tried a little bit, Ron, like a little, and I forgot, maybe I wasn't so good at math then.
Uh-oh.
Ron, did I tell you the story? Did I say
no?
this?
But I'm guessing that you, instead of micrograms, you took milligrams or something.
Ron, listen to this. This is on microgram stuff. So I wasn't, I was a little tired and I forgot a zero or a decimal. And I weighed it out and I took just a little bit. I just took a little baby powder. And I went to my I was working in the lab in the afternoon. Then at 7:00, I had to go to my biochemistry class. And I'm sitting there, Ron, in the front row, because I was a front row guy. Because I used to be a back row guy. And I said, I better pay attention in life. So I'm in the front row. Ron, I'm in the front row going.
Sweating bullets.
Ron, I'm checking the heart rate. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm in my 20s, so my heart rate can go high. I'm not going to kid you. Heart rate is way up to 200 beats per minute.
Wow, just sitting there.
Ron, sitting there. Red beat, Ron.
Scary.
Beat, I'm talking panic attack coming on. So I excused myself. I didn't even get my book bag. I just walked out of that class, Ron, and I know I went to my car in the parking lot, buddy. with water, and I sat there, and it was unbelievable. And that was the cleanse shakes. So clenbuterol, it does have this, apart from the sympathetic nervous system, which you do build tolerance to.
Yeah.
We know that people start on, again, this is not for me, people start on doses. I think it's a dangerous drug because I've seen so many people end up in the emergency room, never dead, but if you have any propensity for stress or for anxiety,
Yeah.
or for an arrhythmia,
Right.
your blood pressure and your heart rate is going to go through the roof. If I understand, the bro scientists will say, "Oh, come on, doc, you took too much."
Yeah.
So I mean, but so there. What's the thing? Heart stress. Oh my God. So it's a similar question: either use and heart stress, which is safer? I don't know. I couldn't ever tell you what's safer, but clenbuterol, we used in small doses, is great for asthma.
Yeah, sure.
Not in America. We can't use it here. It's in Europe. And I mean, are asthmatics more buffed up over in Europe?
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, it does take the fat off pretty well.
It burns fat. It does. Here's the truth, guys. It does, because I've seen patients come. And women love it because it's not androgenic.
Right.
It doesn't. So it burns fat. It builds a little muscle. It makes them hard. I'm not sure how much muscle it really builds, Ron.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, negligible, I'm sure.
But it burns. Yeah, but it was in that. Remember, it was in that muscle lab. So it does have some anabolic properties to it, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go so far as to say, along with standard types of gear, clenbuterol is probably the most widely used substance among physique competitors across the board, but even down to bikini, especially the women. The women love clenbuterol.
They still use it, huh? They still use it?
They love the clenbuterol, the chicks. Because, they want to have their peanut butter at 3 in the morning and still get
What dose do they use, Ron? What's a dose regimen for this stuff?
I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think women aren't supposed to go over 100 micrograms a day total. And I think men safely can build up to 150. And you're supposed to go off for a few days or a week. You're supposed to have periods on and off because supposedly you build up a resistance to it.
And it's true, though. So that's something that I know I learned in the lab. And I know that just subsequently reading on this and with talking with Bill Llewellyn, that is definitely a substance agent that leads to very rapid downregulation of those receptors.
Right. Yeah. Hence why I think no one's ever advised being on it for more than like 2 weeks without taking a break from it, because it's just gonna stop working.
But I've seen patients come in. They go, "Doc, see this?"
Yeah. That's the most common side effect is the tremors.
Clench shakes, tremor. It's a real nervous tremor. It's a nervous system tremor. The clench shakes. I was like, really? Wow.
Yeah. You'd be a terrible surgeon.
Oh my! Don't do the clenbuterol. That's a good question, Ron. That's great questions, man.
I mean, in your experience, because you've had patients who've used all types of performance enhancers in drugs, have you had any of them that have come to you with past history of heart problems directly correlated as far as they could tell you from clenbuterol?
No. So the answer is no. Okay. After thousands of patients, no. Hospitalizations, again, from panic attacks and chest pain and, again, hypertension and tachycardia and palpitations. Yeah. Yes, but they've all ended up, thank God, they've all ended up walking out of it. And so, but if someone has, so the answer is no.
Yeah.
I'm back to with me, Ron, we go back to the old basics. If you have a propensity for heart disease, plaque, even, and you're a smart guy, what this can be about. Mm-hmm. And if you have that and you're just a 30, 40, 50-year-old man and you're using drugs called anabolic steroids that we know lower the HDL, can increase the LDL, can increase hypertension and cause a host of other issues with the hypercoagulable state. I mean, the common things for me are common. I have men coming in here with plaque in the artery, sometimes, unfortunately, with bypass surgery and stents placed early. And there are men that were at risk for it, guaranteed, 100%. They were at risk for it from birth.
Yeah.
But steroids, in my opinion, and I don't think anyone's going to really argue this, will, depending on, of course, all these variables, will accelerate coronary disease, artery disease. They'll just accelerate it.
Yeah.
And then the heart will enlarge, and that's called left ventricular hypertrophy. And I have a guy I talked to a few hours ago who is in his 50s and 20-something year steroid user, and he's on TRT now, and he's feeling good, but his ejection fraction is low normal, Ron.
Yeah.
And he doesn't feel good. And again, that's the study out of last year at JAMA or New England Medical Journal. I forgot which one. It's Aaron Baggish. He showed that men that use steroids have an enlarged heart. And later, but after 40 is still too young, but we see some men that are suffering with early clinical forms of heart failure from steroids and even everything else, just genetics, and cigarette smoking and alcoholism and things and drugs. But it's sad to see a 50-something-year-old man who has a low ejection fraction. And I talked to him a few hours ago, and he just is he just feels like, God, I feel horrible. I'm exhausted. And we're trying to get him to be really light. He's on medicines, by the way. He has me, and he has a cardiologist. Please, Ron, please. So, clenbuterol. Yeah. If you have an electrical abnormality, you just may die right then and there.
Wow.
But I've never seen permanent damage from clenbuterol.
Okay.
No.
So Alberto's proceed at your own risk. The doctor's not giving you a blessing.
No. Yeah, my God. Same old stuff.
Yes, you can tell some people, I'm not being singling him out, but they really want like a blessing from you to use something that they want to use anyway.
I don't know, Ron. I've been doing this so many years, and I'm so straightforward. You can say what, I'm listening. I'm a good listener. Yep, I hear it all. And I just will keep, I have like 3 buttons. I just say, I pretty much say the same. Although today was good. At least you got some new stuff out of me today. Although, look who we are again, Ron. Heart. Everything came back to the heart again, Ron.
Seems like it always leads back to the heart, doesn't it?
I don't know. It seems like we keep getting good questions out of it, though. I love it. I just love doing this, Ron, because it does. And in the last video we did, we had a huge number of views on that, and very positive.
That was the SARMS commentary.
Man, that was a good idea, Ron. That was a good idea.
That was Steve Blackman. I can't take credit for that.
Tell Steve, good job. And again, the guys in Europe, because my New York Times article, I got the article and the interview in Europe, and we got some big stuff coming out of California. I can't say yet, but some more PR, and it's all good because people are ripe. People are ready to. People want to know about these things, Ron. They want to know what's going on.
Yeah. So your YouTube channel can be found by looking up. It's Men's Health.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Brand new, focused on men's health. So if you go to YouTube and put in the browser, Metabolic Doc, Men's Health.
Metabolic Doc, Men's Health, yep.
I'm number 1.
Okay. Yeah, you've got a couple videos up already. They're
we're restarting. So I did the restart button because it was just something I want to be really. I'm still doing the steroid talk, Ron. I'm doing it with you because you guys are great, and I appreciate MD because that was way back, and you guys, gave me that forum of the Anabolic Doc, and it ran, and I'm back, and I'm humble, and now we're taking over the world with everything. But my focus really is taking care of men. Of course, there are taking steroid users, but that's the anabolic recovery side. But I guess I'm really trying to focus more consistently on if you're a man and you're 35, 40, and you have low T legitimately from any type of cause, and you're going to be on testosterone. My clinic that I'm going to Florida Monday to sign the lease.
Oh, wow.
Yep. June 1st will be our date. We'll announce it when it actually happens, next week. And my goal is to be the number 1 Metabolic Doc clinic is going to be the number 1 dedicated clinic for men only, from cardiovascular disease prevention, sexual, very, very confidential sexual discussions with man-to-man only, testosterone replacement, of course, if you need it, And then when you're on testosterone, it needs to be managed. Look at these questions by an expert so you could live to a very long life, like I say, 110.
110.
And Ron, and have great, feel good. There's no reason. Feel great. I'm 54 this year. Feel great. Have great quality of life. Sex great every day, maybe twice a day. Feel good. Ron. Yeah. This is what it needs to be done, not by anti-aging. Your primary care doctor doesn't want to get involved in it. Urologists don't want to get involved. Everyone's freaking out with, everyone's trying to focus on medicine. This is now, I've created a whole new discipline of medicine, just men's health, but for men on testosterone.
Yeah.
And men that are not on testosterone that want the best in coronary artery and heart protection, and then prostate. So it's this whole, so I'm really going after that, Ron. But of course, I'm still involved with the anabolic recovery. My book is booming on Amazon. We're selling a couple a day right now.
Yeah.
And it's good karma, I think, because we need to talk about steroids openly. And
well, I've said this before, but I like to bring it up again. It's the medical community. There's been such a stigma against steroid users, and so many of us we're ashamed. Our doctors have judged us, and I'm so glad to see it starting to slowly shift. And you're at the forefront of that, and your practice in particular, serving the needs of men like myself who've done these things. And there's no real sympathy, or we feel like other doctors don't even want to treat us, and it's sad. So thank you for doing what you do. I
love it.
It's an honorable pursuit. Appreciate it very much.
Let me ask you one question, Ron. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
All right. So you're Ron Harris. You got some balls. You got some chutzpah. You're freely talking about this openly. Yeah. You say you've done steroids. What's the difference between you and the other millions of men that are terrified of even like seeing a doctor or talking, even acknowledging they're on steroids? What do you think the difference is?
I had the same issues. I mean, I used to hide things from my doctors for years because I didn't want to be judged. I was afraid of how they would treat me, what they would think about me. And I think this is something a lot of guys, as they get older, men and women, I think as anybody gets older, you stop giving a shit about what people think, and you realize,
that's great.
I'm gonna be 90 or 100 years old on my deathbed, and saying, why was I so worried about what all those people? I should have just
awesome.
I should have just done that like I wanted to. And I decided if I'm going to a doctor, I'm gonna be honest with them, because I'm going to the doctor to be treated so he can help me be healthy and help me live longer. And why am I going to hide things from him and do myself a disservice like that?
And you're paying for it.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's another thing to consider. Sure, but I urge everyone out there, be honest with your doctor. And if your doctor looks down on you or gives you a snide remarks or whatever, go find another doctor. I've done that.
But you also have you don't. Let me ask you. You're obviously employed by Muscular Development, so the fact that you're openly saying you've done steroids is probably a good thing for what you do for a living. Yeah. But what about the guys? And I could see that I heard that you just don't care. You don't give a shit, which is great. But what about the guys that have regular jobs and they're terrified of being discriminated on?
Yeah, that's that's a concern, and I feel for those guys, because there still is. You could come to your company, you can get fired or disciplined for so many things in corporations these days. I feel like you'd be better off admitting that you had like a heroin problem than that you were a steroid user in some cases. It's still, there's a real heavy stigma around steroid use because it's perceived as pure vanity. You're doing this just to look good. So you're a bad person. Whereas, like I've said before, and I'm not a misogynist, but women do all these things to themselves: breasts, lips, fillers in their cheeks, permanent makeup, all kinds of have ribs taken out. They mutilate themselves surgically, basically, and it's nobody bats an eye. Nobody says, "Oh, they're terrible. How dare they?" But if a man wants to use a little test and deca to put an inch on his arms, or take some Clen so he can get his six-pack a little sharper, he's a bad guy. It is incredible.
It really is. why this show should be the biggest show in the world. It really is true, though. You just really have to wonder that discrepancy of what that is. You know, plastic surgery, the women that are walking around.
Yeah, look at any Real Housewives show. If you're,
I mean, Ron, and those are dangerous. Like, so that's dangerous. They get hurt in those procedures. They do get hurt, and some of them die.
Sure.
And you know, I had a woman I take care of who removed her breast implants years ago. She told me, and she said, you know, years back, they had the saline versus the silicone,
right?
And they banned the silicone for a number of years until they studied it, and then they said it was safe to go back. And she said it's not safe. The data shows that there is autoimmune conditions, and then your body builds antibodies to it. And she showed me the articles, and I was like, wow. And you know, there's pressure though from people that want it, women obviously, and they want that type of implant. Despite it knowingly be dangerous. And you actually, I'm sure that when the surgeon gives you that implant, either saline, not to mention you have to sign a disclaimer that you may die in the operating room.
Right. A waiver.
But it's a waiver. But hold on, Ron. People do die in the operating room from routine surgeries. It does happen.
I mean, anytime you go under anesthesia, you're at risk of death.
It does happen, and so it is interesting in our society that you can mutilate your body. Look at poor Michael Jackson, the poor guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can mutilate yourself with no oversight that someone says, wait a minute, can we not do another surgery? You need some rehabilitation. He had body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
And he was allowed to, I don't know, I guess rich can do whatever they want when you're super, super rich, and they just keep giving you whatever you want. But there's plastic surgery. And I'm going to get a facelift sooner or later on. Of course I'm going to.
Okay.
So, but I'm just saying, but it's not so, but I'll hear the risks, but the surgeon will tell me, he'll say, sir, here are the risks, boom, boom, boom. And you know them and ask some questions, then you'll sign the dotted line and you'll go into the operating room and hope for the best.
Right. And
it is a good point. Again, I'm not saying I'll be you know, it's coming up, Ron. It's going to come soon. You know, so, but it's just funny that we have this discrepancy. And again, I'm just food for thought. I'm in no way saying we should be freaking putting a law out to make steroids legal or any goddamn thing like this. Yeah. But I know you'll make you laugh with that stuff. But that's all I got to say this week.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Urge you guys to subscribe to our MD's YouTube channel. And of course, check out, if you look up Metabolic Doc, Men's Health, or is it Men's Health Metabolic Doc?
No, Metabolic Doc. If you go on YouTube browser, on the YouTube search, on YouTube, Metabolic Doc, Men's Health, you'll see my first intro. Or if you just go on my website, which is Metabolic Doc or Anabolic Doc, and you go to our media page, boom, it's right there.
All right, cool. And of course, don't forget to pick up a copy of the book, America on Steroids, Time to Heal. That'll do it for this week's episode. Dr. O'Connor, I thank you so much, as always, for your insights and little funny stories. I always enjoy those. So until next week, thanks everybody for watching. Ask the Anabolic Doc.